Let me ask you a question. If I give you roles and permissions, would you be able to secure your SaaS product? If your answer is yes, then today I'm going to prove you wrong, including myself. My name is Osama. I'm an engineering manager here at RightSeed. So let's dig in. Here's the rule. Don't overthink it. Just map it in your minds. A user can only be able to view the logs if he is part of an organization, if they are on the paid plan, if they are either a creator or admin, and the logs can no longer be more than 30 days old. Let's try to map everything using this online tool like Scaly Draw. This is the rule. What's the first instinct if I tell you to draw an architecture for this? I think the first instinct for everyone would be to use role-based authentication because every product starts with it. If I were to start a product which has this business condition, the basic roles which comes to my mind, or I think everyone's mind, would be one, admin or manager. In our case, it would be a creator as well, and a basic role which I'll say it's user. Will you be able to solve this business logic using these roles? Maybe. What if product comes after a week and says we don't really need 30 days? For admin, we need 80 days, and for creator, we'll stick with 30 days. Now what we'll do, if I were you, I'll create more roles. The roles which I could create maybe are admin logs 80, creator logs 30. I think that would be able to solve our issue, right? But think about it. This is just 1 week of our application into production. Maybe after 3 weeks, we have a lot of requests from the product, a lot of changes. Then what will we do? I think by that time, if we stick with the role-based access control, we would have like hundreds of rules, which, to be honest, is not maintainable. And this is exactly what will make your head explode. And this is also what it is. This approach is basically role explosion. I think now we have understood that roles are not that sufficient. So let's go one level deeper. What if we were to use permissions? What type of permissions comes to your mind? I think the permissions which we can create is can access logs, is paid user, or what else? Is organization user. Are these really our permissions? I don't think so. Our permissions are actions. An action could be, in our case, would be logs, write logs, read logs, export. So what are these? These are facts and conditions, just information. Let me also write this down here as well. Facts and conditions as permissions. So now, again, if I go back to our requirement changes from the product side, the product comes again and they say instead of 30 days, I need 90 days. What will I need to do? Will I create a new permission? For example, I create logs 90 days, read logs 90 days. I don't think so. Because if I were to do that, it means I need to migrate my permissions across my entire database. That's not flexible. That's fixed. This is brittle. It could break anytime because, again, this is not manageable, right? So it's clear now that we need to stop thinking in roles and permissions and start thinking into something else. What comes to my mind is I think we need to start thinking about attributes. And before going to attributes, I think I need to explain a few concepts about authorization. And an authorization has 3 basic facts: a subject, a resource, and an environment. What's a subject? A subject is someone who is requesting something. In our case, it's a user. What's a resource? A resource is what's being accessed, and environment itself is a request. So if I were to quiz you and say, what's a subject and what's a resource, what would you say? So let me quiz you. If I say user.organization ID is equal to log.organization ID, what do you think? What's a resource and what's a subject? So in our case, user is basically a subject and log is a resource. Up until now, we have come to a conclusion that roles and permissions are not sufficient for a production level SaaS product. We need to come up with something else. And that thing is we need to change our thinking to, instead of following the roles and permissions, we need to start writing a policy. What's a policy basically? Policy is a decision engine. In our case, if I were to translate this condition into a policy, how would I translate it into? So it could be allow logs if the user is in the same organization and is paid and is an admin and days are less than equal to 80. Yes, it's 80. or is creator and days are less than equal to 30. Do we have something else? I think this is all the conditions which we need to follow. This is basically a policy. Here's the real architectural questions nobody asks. Where does this policy lives? If it lives inside an API, you have just hard-coded your product rules, right? That means every change need deployment, every service re-implements the same logic, and every bug exists in multiple places. I think the best design should be, or a clean design should be, your API collects facts. Let me just write it here. Your API collects facts. Your app enforces the results. Now, what's the policy layer? A policy layer could be a shared library, a policy service, or a real engine like Open Policy Agent or any other open source tool which you can use to enforce the policies. So what we have learned so far, does this mean we are completely getting rid of roles and permissions? No, roles don't disappear. They just become another attribute, not the system. So instead of following the role-based access control, we are now moving towards an attribute-based access control, which is more flexible and which does not require us to redeploy our application for every product change. In the end, it all boils down to we should write or we should develop policies, not just roles. And this is the same pattern used by AWS, IAM, and any modern policy engines. So I hope it makes sense. We have covered that for any modern SaaS product, only roles and permissions are not sufficient. They do not cover every aspect of the product or the business requirement. And we need to think outside roles and permissions. And that is attribute-based access control. My name is Usama Riaz. I'm an engineering manager here at Ripeseed. If you have any thoughts about this topic, feel free to drop comments. I'll be happy to read and learn more from you guys. See you guys in the next one.